Good day, Mr. Barrett.
Good day, sir.
How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing fine. And how are you?
All right, so I am good. I am good. I'm just here to ask you one question. All right. I've observed that hunger in our community has been a major issue. Now, what I want to ask is, what do you observe, all right, as it relates to hunger and the COVID pandemic in our community?
So, what I observe in my community, I have observed that hunger is being a challenge since the COVID has outbreak. Seeing that the farmers are not able to go to the farm as often as possible since there is a curfew. So, this has caused a lot of people not to have food on their table because the production has reduced in the area drastically. So, hunger has been an issue and it has led the people to go on the street at days and asking for food to provide for themselves. And since there is a COVID, it has been very hard for them to find food, and it has left the community in a very tragic situation as it relates to hunger.
All right, thank you, Mr. Barrett.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we have heard what Mr. Barrett has said, and I too believe that hunger is becoming a great issue in our Jamaican society. It is even getting worse because of the current COVID protocols that are held in place because of the pandemic that is going on currently. All right, one voluntarism, all right, that I've heard about lately is from the food of agriculture. All right, and I've been watching the GIS a couple days ago, and I've heard a conference being held. All right, I don't want to give any wrong information, so what I'm going to do is to pull up that conference and I'll read just a bit of the information that was there. All right, so the Food and Agriculture Organization has reiterated its commitment to supporting the country's efforts to alleviate poverty and hunger. All right, addressing the JIS think tank on October 15, Gladstone Barrett, Assistant FAO representative, said in fulfilling that mission, the organization had assisted the Ministry of Agriculture to put programs in place to improve the quality of life of rural population. Among the initiative, right, is the Fisheries Management Project, which involves the development of a strategic plan for the development of the fishing industry in recognition that a significant number of persons island-wide depend on the sector for livelihood. So the initiative that the Food and Agriculture, right, organization is implementing is to allow more what should I say, more fluency, all right, in supporting rural people with more food and allow this to be a sustainable income. Now, some of the main ways of alleviating hunger, all right, is one, promote agriculture. All right, so agriculture is the fastest and easiest way of obtaining food, and this is something that you don't need money to start. All right, so you have the Rural Agricultural Agency that supports and help upcoming farmers and new farmers in giving them supplies to start a farm, and this can be a good way of starting a new production to obtain food. Another thing that is able to alleviate hunger is to make it noticeable. So people need to recognize, all right, and put these persons to the public, all right, because it's easy to see when somebody is dying of hunger. So other persons that are able to provide for themselves, to sustain themselves, need to bring out an initiative to develop a strategic plan in helping those persons that are unable to provide food for themselves. So they should take that initiative and put it to the public so they can get external help to help those persons. Another good method is by developing a community group All right, so this group that is going to be developed in the community is like a savings group. All right, so this group are a club, all right, to allow persons to save towards any hardship that they might find. So, given this pandemic, if that was set in place from the beginning, they would have already have a set of income that they have already saved. So this pandemic wouldn't impact them so much because they would have had a set of funding that is already put down for something that like this that comes up, all right, that is unnoticeable. Yes, so these ways are just three methods in alleviating hunger in our Jamaican communities. And another important aspect is voluntarism. A lot of persons look at voluntarism and say, oh, well, you know, you volunteer and you give something and nobody recognizes that you give something. But it's not just that. If we have persons that volunteer to take various initiative to put things out to the public, we would have had less corruption, less violence, and less death pertaining to lack of food and hunger in our communities. Because if there are persons that volunteer to help these persons facing these problems, it would have been less, a lot less. So we have to understand the importance of these voluntarism actions. And you might think that voluntarism is not important, but believe me, to the persons that are in need, it is really important.